In my last video about the connection Xenoblade Chronicles X shares with the other games in the Xeno series, I had mentioned that areas in which ether is present must have been affected by the Zohar/Conduit. Since then, I've been down somewhat of a rabbit hole regarding the Zohar, the Blade organization, and even some tangentially related stuff such as Origin from Xenoblade 3. Before we get into any of this, I feel I must provide some out-of-game context that will help ground some of the claims I've made in the previous video, as well as this one. In the Iwata Asks interview for Xenoblade Chronicles X, it's established that the world of Mira relies heavily on side quests in order to relay information to the player. So when I had talked about side quests regarding the Ova and the Telethia being from another world, it is incredibly important that we take that sort of thing into consideration. Now, of course, this is supplemental media, and there are other sources that I'm going to get into. Xenoblade has made some lore known in supplemental material before, such as Mithra's Siren model kit. There was some lore regarding Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in there. And of course, there is the Japanese website for Xenoblade Chronicles X. I typically don't care for supplemental media. I tend to encourage creators, or prefer when creators or developers keep the lore exclusive to the media of origin for a franchise. But with that aside, I'd like to direct your attention back to the Xenoblade Chronicles X website, the Japanese one. It's still live at the time of this video. On this site, you'll find two short stories taking place shortly before the story of Xenoblade X starts. In particular, the short story I want you to look at is 24-Hour Happy People. There is a fan-made English translation for like the first 4 parts. I had to do a machine translation for part 5. But I do recommend it. It is a cute little story expanding out the world of Xenoblade X. In one part of the story, we get a little bit of information with Lin Liku, speaking with a man she met named Tony. And as they were making their way towards an underground shopping district known as the Hacienda, Lin had said that those that were shopping around there, they were kind of odd looking. They looked like hippies. Tony, being a much older gentleman, sort of a father figure to Lin in the story, was surprised that she knew of a word that old. And while she said she hadn't known much about it, there had been an attempt at a hippie movement shortly before the white whale took off. What I'm getting at here is that this, with the recent addition of Future Redeemed, it's possible that this movement was the Salvatore/Savior Right faction. At the beginning of Xenoblade 1, they have escalated into a full-scale rebellion, so I suspect that rebellion is the result of the human rights bill failing to pass, the one that we had heard about in the radio cutscene in Future Redeemed. But that is, I would call that somewhat of an informed guess. In the other story we're given, it is revealed that in the Japanese version of the game, they changed it in the American localization, that Blade stands for the Beyond Logos Artificial Destiny Emancipators. So, let's backtrack there. Logos? Malos? The second main AI managing the Zohar? Well, the Zohar in particular is known for manipulating fate and destiny, and it's not something that those on Mira have access to. If they wish to fight for their future on Mira, they have to do so without the Aegis Blades or the Zohar. Speaking of the Zohar, however, I would like to pose a question to the community here. Something that isn't really directly related to Xenoblade Chronicles X. This more relates to Xenoblade 3. I'd like to know what you guys think of Origin. From what I'm looking at here, it seems to me to be some sort of Zohar emulator. Hear me out. Let's start with what the Zohar does from the top. It manipulates fate, provides access to the collective unconscious, and has the ability to process fate itself into power, and is often used to power mechs, robots, and even artificial life forms such as the Aegis Blades, who, at one time, resided in a supercomputer built for interacting with the Zohar. We've seen concepts like this used all throughout the Xeno series. Even Mithra Siren, as I had mentioned earlier, was revealed to use slave generators, which take power from the Zohar, both in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and in the original Xenogears. This device also seems to be able to create and sustain new universes. Namely, of course, Zanza's world from Xenoblade 1. Once Shulk and Rex kill Klaus/Zanza, however, the Zohar disappears, causing Shulk's world to start breaking down, and rifts appear with creatures from Xenoblade 2 coming through in distorted, foggy forms. This progresses to the point where the world of XC1 can be seen phasing into the XC2 dimension. It is at this time that Melia and Nia activate Origin, which was designed to safely merge the two worlds together, carrying the souls of those from each world. However, something goes wrong, and the collective unconsciousness of these souls sort of will into existence the Mobius known as Zed and the world of Aeonios, to keep sort of an endless now going on forever. They seem to be afraid of moving on. But the point is, would this not constitute a new world? It's also overseen by an AI reused from the device that could do the same thing. We have Alpha looking over this world. Originally he was managing it, until he split off and tried to take, members of the city with him. And towards the end of Future Redeemed, we see that his alternate personality construct, A, goes on to take care of things along with Shulk and Rex. And even the dictionary definition of emulate is to equal or approach equality with. And I'd certainly say that even if it doesn't equal the Zohar, it certainly does approach equality. So, I want to hear what you think about that. Does it really mean much that Origin is a Zohar emulator? Not really. I don't really think so. I just think it's a neat fact. But I will leave that for you to ponder. That and what I had previously talked about. So please tell me what you think. I'm continuing to dive into the well of information that I don't see many talking about, and I hope you'll stick around for it. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Professor Kagan, Professor in Ego Only.